Okay, I'm going to attempt to make a video kind of recapping what I've learned about web technologies so far for the last few weeks, because I've been trying to survey the whole thing, and it's pretty complicated, so I gotta, sort of make some kind of documentary or something so I can kind of review it later before I forget it all. Now, one thing I was going to say that's, you're going to run into a lot and be confused about is what a Restful API is. Now, we got this video here by this guy, but it's like a little dated from 2014, but it's a really good video. However, some of the stuff he shows in there actually, won't work anymore, like with Facebook and stuff like that. But still, it shows you conceptually kind of what an API is. And, I've certainly found some other, interesting data on it. And really SOAP and RPC, remote procedure calls, are the same thing. SOAP is a version of an RPC, but then you got Restful as the other main option, even though there are, according to this article, some specialty types of interfaces. But I mean, this is actually pretty concise, even though there are indeed other interfaces too, such as this GraphQL that came out in like 2015 or something, but I don't know how substantial it is because I don't really see much reference to it these days. But that was an interesting article that I read on it. This site here, if you can see that, this da-14.com address here. Bring that up. See, this was kind of an interesting guide on it, so you see that address. But yeah, this is just something that you come across a lot, and I've been kind of confused what that means. So, and what an API is, just like you can see in this guy's video, it basically is a method that you can use to communicate with a web server or what have you. So, but it's like a communications protocol, but you're computing over HTTP, but there are a lot of functions that you can kind of pull out, a lot of data, like this guy was talking about maps and stuff like that. So it was pretty interesting, even though, like I said, some of the stuff he showed, it's a little out of date. But one of the hallmarks of the REST application, are these basic methods to, send and receive data. Which, like I said, if you looked at, PHP or, or any of these other methods, you'll see that, in HTML, etc. You'll see reference, JavaScript, etc. You'll see reference to these methods, to communicate with with your rear end applications. So. Whereas this remote procedure call, I mean, I know that's something that Java does, if I recall correctly. That's one of the things you apparently use Java for a lot. Although I could be wrong about that, but it relies on the old SOAP method, which used XML files to communicate, whereas the Restful is mostly through JSON. But Restful APIs can actually use HTTP or HTML rather, and XML as well. So I mean, you can actually read more. It's a more modern method. It's introduced in 2000 versus this being 98. But again, XML is a real verbose language. If you ever seen any XML stuff versus JSON. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I actually have some XML here somewhere, but I'd have to look for it. It's an FXML, but that's for Java FX. Here, Scratch. Yeah. So this is XML right here. So this is like from a Microsoft database. That was stored in XML apparently, in one of my C# programs. But But yeah, I mean, you know, it's like extensive, you know, versus a JSON file. Let's see. Let's see. Come on. Okay, well, I mean, here's a small example of a JSON file. It's not very big though. But I mean, there's a way of actually showing all the settings in JSON, but I forgot what it was. But you know, JSON is actually a pretty readable format compared to XML. XML is a lot more verbose. It takes a lot more time for data transfers to occur. So, you know, JSON was a far better format. But at any rate, you know, I was just going to say that that's some things you're going to be running into, you know, with, RESTful apps and so forth. And I'm, you know, I'm just kind of at the tail end of this, and I just wondered what the hell RESTful really was. So I decided to try to figure it out before I moved on, because I'm about to move back into normal territory in the, you know, into Ruby and so forth. Yeah. Oh, by the way, this is kind of a cool little program too. It uses this Ruby 2D engine, so which I think is, you know, partly used for video games, maybe, but it's, you know, it's basically a graphic 2D engine. So running this in Visual Studio Code, because this version I can actually debug Ruby programs with, as well as Python. Did I push play? Well, it does work. I don't know why it's not working at the moment. There we go. Okay. But yeah, anyway, so that just draws a, you know, a gradient triangle, but you can see how little code it required. So it's kind of cool, you know. It's a framework, of course. Most things, honestly, and you know, fancy things in Ruby and Python are frameworks, you know, or you know, functions somebody wrote in C++ or whatever. But at any rate, you know, that's kind of interesting. If you look up that Ruby 2D or whatever, I think you can find it out there. So I forgot what the exact name was. Okay, but now there are I might just cover this rest of this stuff in a separate file. Just call this Restful, separate video.